We are a matter of hours away from the beginning of a new Premier League season. So, with that being said, here's my brief preview of all 20 teams in England's top tier divisions, with each team being given 30 seconds or less. The Alexander Lacazette signing has been great, but they haven't really followed up on it yet. They need, in my opinion, a right back, a centre back, and maybe also a central midfielder to follow that up. They've been given money this year, so it's a huge year for Arsene Wenger, as he can only hide behind his players' performances so much this season as long as results aren't going their way. Made a couple of decent signings so far this summer and can definitely push on from their previous record-breaking league high, and maybe even string together a decent cup run or two this year. But probably will need a replacement for Jack Wilshere. Maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek is enough, maybe not. The Premier League new boys are possibly favourites to be relegated back to the Championship this season, and if they are to have any chance of surviving, they will need to make their home ground a fortress, just like what Burnley did last season. They will also need Anthony Lockyer and Glenn Murray to hit the ground running sooner rather than later. If Burnley are to survive another season in the Premier League, they will need to put together another great home record like they did last season, whilst attempting to improve upon the away record for this season. Decent signings have added depth to the squad, but definitely need a replacement for the departed Michael Keane and Andre Gray. A lot to look forward to if you're a Chelsea fan, with the defending Premier League champions about to enter the defence of their title. They've made some superb signings this summer in the forms of Timo Bakayoko, Antonio Rudiger and of course Alvaro Morata. Champions League football is also back at the bridge for this season, and despite speculation he was leaving, Antonio Conte has stayed at Stamford Bridge. However, the Diego Costa saga and the selling of Nemanja Matic could come back to haunt them in the long run. New manager, new era at Crystal Palace. Frank de Boer has took over from Sam Allardyce this summer, and although he's bringing in a new style of play, it may take some time for Palace to properly adapt to it. But in the end, it could all be worth it. Consistency has been and may still be a problem this season, whilst it's a big season for both Wilfried Zaha and Christian Benteke. A very busy summer for Everton and Ronald Koeman. They've made big gains in the forms of Michael Keane, Jordan Pickford and maybe even Wayne Rooney, who could look to thrive being back at Everton as they look to position themselves for a top 4 finish, although in my opinion they are still not at that level yet. But a huge loss comes in the form of Romelu Lukaku. Another striker is definitely needed to fill his shoes, and whilst Ross Barkley's future is clearly undecided, it will need to be decided as soon as possible. Like Brighton, they are another team that are favourites to be relegated, but don't let that convince you that they are automatically down before the season's even begun. They will obviously need to show a lot of fight and spirit to survive, and like Brighton and Burnley, they will need to rely on their home form whilst attempting to steal something away from home in big games. A knock back down to reality last season for Leicester, and after the Claudio Ranieri era ended with the squad lacking harmony, Craig Shakespeare seems to have restored order to the squad. How long will it be before things turn sour again? Can they keep Mahrez? Can Vardy be a consistent goalscorer again? Only time will tell. It's been a mixed summer for Liverpool. They made 3 decent signings, had a good pre-season, but it's been all overshadowed by the Naby Keita and Virgil van Dijk sagas that don't appear to be nearing a solution anytime soon. Barcelona are also locked on to Philippe Coutinho, as the ball seems to be in the player's court as to where his future lies. Top 4 finish and a trophy should be the minimum achievement for this team. Manchester City, one of the biggest spenders so far this summer, have spent a lot on their defence, particularly in the fullback and goalkeeper areas. It's a big season for John Stones as he attempts to justify his $50 million price tag. It'll be also interesting to see how Pep Guardiola balances and rotates the striker situation with Sergio Aguero and Gabriel Jesus, as well as both the Silvers and the development of Leroy Sané. A big trophy has to be on the horizon for Pep Guardiola this season. 3 big signings in the form of Romelu Lukaku, Nemanja Matic and Victor Lindelof in so far for Mourinho. He needs to keep David De Gea at all costs. It's a big season for Lukaku, filling in from Ibrahimovic's shoes, and it's also an even bigger season for Paul Pogba, who needs to show why United spent $89 million on him. For last season's Championship winners, they need to have a better defensive display than they showed in the Championship. Dwight Gale will also need to find his goal scoring touch from the get-go, but it's also great to have Rafa Benitez back in the Premier League, a guy who did so much for Liverpool, returned to the Premier League with Chelsea, and despite winning them the Europa League, it ended on an unfortunate sour note for him at Stamford Bridge. The Saints are facing a losing battle with Virgil van Dijk as he looks to leave the club and will need to find a replacement for him sooner rather than later. They are possibly beginning to show signs that they can't keep losing players season after season and replacing them despite the success in previous years, and an average season does look like it's on the cards going forward. Only 2 signings of note to bring you from Stoke City this summer, and they come in the forms of the loan signing of Kurt Zouma and the free transfer of Darren Fletcher, so a mix of youth and experience there. Stoke for me need to show some progression this season, whether it's in a cup competition or the league itself. A replacement for the recently departed Marko Arnautovic should be top priority, whilst another striker wouldn't go amiss either. Otherwise, it looks to be an average season for the Potters. For Swansea, it will be interesting to see the impact that Tammy Abraham will have whilst on loan there this season. Fernando Llorente's goals was obviously the main reason why Swansea stayed up in the Premier League last season. Will he have the similar sort of effect this season? Only time will tell. And they also need to keep hold of Gylfi Sigurdsson at all costs. He's a very underrated player in my opinion, and even though he may potentially leave, or some sort of deal with Everton could be struck, it may see Ross Barkley travel in the opposite direction. Spurs fans are beginning to see the problems that can arise from moving to a new stadium, with no new signings so far occurring this summer. A similar situation to when Arsenal moved to the Emirates. The Kyle Walker's departure means that area is weakened, despite Kieran Trippier being there. It's a big season for Vincent Janssen as well. But with the teams around Spurs strengthening, it could mean that Mauricio Pochettino's side are in danger of dropping out of the top 4. New season, new manager for Watford. Marco Silva proved to be an inspiration to an otherwise poor season for Hull last season, with the job proving to be a little bit too much for him. But with Watford, it could be the start of something here. They've added depth to their midfield so far, but a striker and a centre-back are possibly wanted as the transfer window continues. Only one real major signing made so far this season by West Brom, and that comes in the form of Jay Rodriguez, who's a decent player whose career took a hit due to a horrible injury. A chance for a fresh start then for him. A couple of outgoings in the form of Fletcher and Gardner. 1 or 2 signings needed for depth. Otherwise, no real reason why Tony Pulis can't push on from what he achieved last season. Great window so far for West Ham. They have managed to capture the signings of Pablo Zabaleta, Joe Hart, Marko Arnautovic, and of course Javier Hernandez, strengthening all weakened areas of the team, and with possibly more signings to come. West Ham, you feel, need to be back amongst the race for Europa League place, following the slight backward step that they took last season following Slaven Bilic's second season in charge of the Hammers. And that about wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have your own thoughts and opinions on the upcoming Premier League season, leave them in the comments section below. Would love to read them. Otherwise, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you like the video and I want to see more content like this, or like the way I'm taking this channel, then feel free to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.